Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Smith. I'm a librarian, a local historian, and a housing activist in Kalamazoo. And there's many reasons that I do anti-racism work and racial equity work, but the main reason is that my soul uh, is bound up in the work. There comes a time where all of us have to make the decision that this is no longer optional to do this work. It's actually necessary for the rest of my life and hopefully yours. You have to do the work. It's crucial for your own humanity, for your own soul to ever be whole, that we all have to do the work. The reason I do the work is because I went through the very rigorous intellectual battle to deprogram my white, male, able-bodied, straight mind and how I got socialized my whole life. I went through the hard work to deprogram myself into what we call anti-racism, which is pretty much a life education. But I went through, for about 12 years, I read about racism in America. I sat at the feet of mostly black people, living, dead, past, present, and I gained as much learnings and wisdom as I could, and I'm still doing that. But it led me to this idea of anti-racism, that very simply that racial disparities, whether it be wealth or homelessness or infant mortality, are caused by racism. Some things are really simple, right? I do this work because after I did that work and the scales sort of fell from my eyes, I made a personal decision that I was an overeducated white man that needed to make a commitment to actually do work. There's knowing what's wrong with America, what's wrong with Kalamazoo, etc. There's feeling bad about it. There's showing up occasionally to express your feelings, and there's doing the work. And of course, those are two different things. It's a bridge we have to cross, particularly as white allies. So I do this work because I'm overeducated. I know about racism in America. I know about the history. I know about the anti-racist struggle. But knowing and doing are two different things. I know the racial disparities in Kalamazoo of infant mortality, of homelessness, of income, poverty, home ownership, wealth, and that can filter in and really harm us. It can really, what Ta-Nehisi Coates says, it can really haunt us, and it really does haunt me. There's two things that haunt me every day: the haunting of racial disparities and the racism that caused them, and the double haunting of knowing how white privilege works. So that's what leads me to action. I do this work because I know that my 6-year-old son Emmanuel is going to turn 43 someday. It's going to happen. And guess what else is going to happen? When my white son turns 43, black wealth is going to hit zero. I don't just know that as an intellectual fact. I feel it. I feel the violence of it, the plunder, the wealth extraction that represents. So we can either put our heads in the sand, which most white folks do. We can physically, intellectually separate ourselves from these issues, or we can choose to fight it for the rest of our lives. We can choose to go towards a sort of wholeness that we as white people can maybe feel when we reach what Martin Luther King called the promised land, where we can live in a society finally. Maybe we have inequality generally, but finally, skin color doesn't determine people's life outcomes. That's why we do the work. So we each have to make a decision of once we decide to do the work, what does white allyship mean? What skills do I particularly have to support black and brown led movements, nonprofits, organizations, etc.? That's a really big decision to make is, how does it look for you? But you have to do the back work first. You have to get yourself educated, become what we call a singular anti-racist consciousness, and then make other decisions about how we can be most effective. Finally, I do this work out of the idea of hope, out of the idea that maybe we can get there. We can get to what Isaac calls the beloved community. We can get to what Ibram X. Kendi calls a true multicultural society, right? It's hard to have hope, but you have to have hope to do this work. And if we can't do it nationally, if we can't do it in Michigan, then we can do it in Kalamazoo.